The room didn't react at first. The statement landed without warning, delivered plainly, without build-up or flourish. For a split second, it sounded like context, until it became clear it was confirmation. Jamie Dornan had just said something Hollywood wasn't prepared to hear. There was no press conference, no orchestrated reveal, no exclusive headline timed to the minute. It happened in the middle of a conversation that wasn't supposed to change history. One sentence, spoken calmly, reframed years of speculation into something concrete and irreversible. People replayed the clip immediately, searching for qualifiers that weren't there. No jokes, no backtracking, no softening language. The word, confirm, didn't need to be said out loud. Meaning had already done the work. The shock wasn't just that a wedding existed. It was the implication that it had been real long before anyone noticed. If a dream wedding had been confirmed now, the question became unavoidable. How long had it been quietly planned in the background? What followed was a wave of disbelief across the industry. Not the loud, chaotic kind, but the stunned recalibration that happens when a narrative collapses. Publicists paused, journalists hesitated, old timelines were suddenly unreliable. The phrase, dream wedding, caught attention for a different reason. There was no mention of scale, cost, or spectacle. The word, dream, felt personal, not promotional. It suggested intention over display, meaning over performance. Those familiar with Jamie's public life noticed how uncharacteristically simple the confirmation was. No grand explanation, no romantic speech, just acknowledgement, delivered with a steadiness that suggested the decision had been settled for some time. As the news spread, reactions split sharply. Some fans celebrated the idea of a fairy tale ending. Others questioned how such a milestone could remain hidden in an industry designed to expose everything. Both responses missed the same detail. This wasn't a story that had just begun. It was a story that had been protected. And protection, in Hollywood, requires discipline, not luck. The absence of immediate amplification from Dakota Johnson only deepened the intrigue. There was no mirrored announcement, no social post to confirm the confirmation. Her silence read as confidence rather than hesitation, as if the truth didn't need reinforcement. Insiders described the moment as a controlled release, not a leak. The timing wasn't accidental. The environment was safe enough to allow honesty without inviting spectacle. That kind of calculation doesn't happen overnight. What stunned Hollywood most was how little the confirmation relied on theatrics. No images, no details, no attempt to sell a narrative. The statement stood alone, unembellished, daring the world to adjust around it. Behind the scenes, conversations shifted quickly. Projects were reassessed. Old assumptions were quietly discarded. A relationship once framed as speculation was now officially part of the record, even if the details remained deliberately sparse. The word, confirm, changed the stakes instantly. Rumors can be dismissed, debated, and reshaped. Confirmation collapses those options. It forces acceptance, not interpretation. What made the moment linger was the calm that followed. No scrambling, no damage control, just a collective realization that something real had been happening beyond the public's field of view, and that it had been happening successfully. Observers noted that the lack of spectacle was itself the point. A dream wedding didn't need witnesses to be valid. It needed alignment. And alignment, once reached, doesn't ask for approval. As the initial shock settled, a different feeling emerged. Not betrayal, not disbelief, but recognition. The recognition that privacy, when guarded carefully, can outlast even the most aggressive curiosity. By the end of the day, Hollywood hadn't learned the details it wanted. It learned something else instead. That not all love stories announce themselves when the world is ready. Some wait until the people inside them are. And when they do surface, they don't explode. They settle, quietly, decisively, into the truth. Because the most shocking confirmations aren't the ones that arrive loudly. They're the ones that reveal how long everyone else was looking in the wrong direction. Once the shock softened, a quieter question took its place. Not how it happened, but how it stayed invisible for so long. In an industry that feeds on leaks, The absence of detail was not a coincidence, it was a strategy. Those close to Jamie Dornan describe a relationship that matured outside the usual Hollywood rhythms. No need for validation through appearances. No appetite for proving anything to anyone. What grew between them did so away from noise, insulated by routine rather than spectacle. That insulation mattered. Public timelines compress emotion into headlines, forcing decisions to perform on cue. By staying out of view, the relationship was allowed to develop at its own pace, slow enough to be deliberate, steady enough to last. The dream wasn't a venue or a guest list. It was time. Why keep it quiet until now? Because early exposure would have turned meaning into momentum. Momentum invites pressure, and pressure reshapes choices. Waiting wasn't about fear of backlash, it was about preserving agency. When people imagine a dream wedding, they picture scale. Flowers, lights, applause. What insiders describe instead as intention. A ceremony imagined as an anchor, not an announcement. Something designed to mark alignment, not to generate reaction. This reframes the confirmation entirely. It wasn't the beginning of something new, it was the acknowledgement of something already complete. That's why the reveal felt calm rather than triumphant. Calm is what remains after decisions are settled. The role of Dakota Johnson in this narrative is often misunderstood. Her silence wasn't absence, it was symmetry. She didn't need to echo the confirmation because it wasn't a pitch, it was a fact. Echoes are for persuasion. Facts stand on their own. Industry watchers noted how consistent the behavior had been over time. Declined invitations, carefully chosen schedules, the refusal to monetize curiosity. These weren't evasions, they were boundaries. Boundaries tend to signal seriousness long before labels do. The reason Hollywood didn't see it coming is simple. The story didn't follow familiar beats. No on-off cycle, no dramatic reconciliations, no breadcrumb trail of publicity. It moved forward without asking the audience to come along. That's also why the term, dream wedding, resonated differently once examined. Dreams aren't always loud. Sometimes they're defined by the absence of interruption. By choosing privacy over performance, the couple built a milestone that couldn't be diluted by expectation. Critics argued that such secrecy was unrealistic. Supporters countered that it was the only way something real could survive. Both sides missed the same point. Discretion isn't secrecy when it's mutual. It's consent. What made the confirmation land with such force was how little it needed to explain. There were no defensive clarifications, no justifications, no attempt to tidy loose ends. The past didn't require revision because it hadn't been mismanaged. As days passed, the industry adjusted. Not with scandal, but with acceptance. Projects recalibrated their assumptions. Narratives softened. The confirmation didn't disrupt, it resolved. That's a rare outcome for any headline. The lingering fascination wasn't about the wedding itself. It was about the discipline required to protect it. In Hollywood, restraint is often mistaken for fragility. This story suggested the opposite, that restraint can be a sign of strength. Looking back, the signs were there, just not where people were looking. Stability without spectacle, consistency without commentary. When those elements align, they often point to decisions already made. The final twist isn't romantic in the traditional sense. It's structural. The shock wasn't that a dream wedding happened. The shock was realizing how effectively it had been kept out of reach of the very system designed to consume it. Some love stories surprise the world because they arrive unexpectedly. Others do so because they were carefully protected until surprise was no longer a risk. In the end, this wasn't Hollywood witnessing a beginning. It was Hollywood finally noticing an ending, of speculation, of noise, of the need to explain. And that may be the most cinematic reveal of all.